Down to the favicon. I have some of the most important items at my clients' fingertips. My concept for a real estate website has been evolving since 1998. When I first got into the business, that was the time when America Online and dial-up services were at 56.6K. Remember that sound when the internet connected? I sure do. I remember when I first started, we had to fill out a sheet called an MLS entry sheet. It was very, very long. It was the legal type form paper, and we had to have it delivered ourselves to the Board of Realtors. We were able to fax it into the Board of Realtors, where for an additional $19 or $25, if memory serves, and this is the late 90s, so forgive me, they would then take that sheet and input it into the multiple listing service system. And then from there would be a dot matrix printout generated with all the pages of the current MLS database. You'll have all your listings in there that are active. You'll have the ones that are in different forms of escrow, and then the sold listings. This data was taken to the local brokers, and those brokers, they would send somebody to pick it up. They would then have this, and either they would replace papers or they would then maybe make an entirely new book. So it would depend on the office how they would split that up. Then the agents, of course, would scurry and get the data for their farms, those neighborhoods where they touted to be the local expert, the agent who everybody used to sell their homes, and so on. I wanted a website that had a full search function, including the market reports for the cities that I am most active in. But within all other areas that are serviced by the local boards of realtors where the data is housed, I wanted my website to be unlocked so that those visiting could search without having to register for anything. I wanted the site to be a guaranteed, mine only, a singularity where I would not share, sell, or trade or pass along anybody's personal or private information. I want it to be secure, SSL, and encryption enhanced. I bought Santa Clarita openhouses.com, and I have that site running on an iHouse web platform. I wanted it to update as soon as possible when new listings were added via the multiple listing service, taken off, sold, entered escrow, or with any other change in its status. I also needed it to have a robust blog where I could write articles like this one, put up my YouTube videos so my clients could view what I'm talking about. And when somebody asks questions like, Connor, how do I know what I'm going to be paying to sell my house if I'm selling it at $750,000? I could then link to it as I have in this particular blog post. Looking back in the neighborhood expert thing, that seemed to be a monopoly of sorts when I first got into business, and it still kind of exists. Today, though, the veil's been removed, and being the local area expert is valuable, but it tends to create unfair competition between other listings. If you, as an agent, have a home listed for sale and one of the neighbors calls to list theirs, how are you going to serve two masters on the same block and now apparently on the same street? Who are you competing with? You're competing each seller against the other seller if those happen to be the only two listings in the neighborhood, or if you happen to have a monopoly in the entire area. Don't get too upset too quickly. If this is your way, that's fine. I understand it. But when it's entirely another agent, you know as I, that's a much better match. You're not fighting yourself. You're fighting somebody else in the business. When that other agent is one and the same, I say there's one of those sellers. They might not get the best advice. Some can do it well. I suppose there's always an exception to the rule. I continue to think out loud as a result. Those who know me, I from the hip style and don't have any issues with it. Others, well, I'm sure I won't be working with them anytime soon. I did a post the other day due to the changes in the real estate commissions and concessions, sellers' offerings, and online displays of commission amounts being halted by the boards of realtors. The blog post that I just hyperlinked to in this particular article at my blog at Santa Clarita openhouses.com, above and beyond the typical. I'm a top 1% realtor. Yes. If a realtor closes only a few deals with all the licenses out in the world and all the realtors out in the world, they're not as active as you may think. Selling a few puts most agents in the top 1% of realtors nationwide, especially in the more expensive markets. Selling a single home for $1 million here in LA can cause an agent very close to being in the top 1% of realtors nationwide. It sounds like a fantastic touting mechanism. Oh, yes, I'm in this game. I'm at this level. but it's not made up to be. Do they? I guess then talking to those people who hire them due to getting the proverbial postcards and door hangers, even some spam emails and text messages come through touting that they are the number one neighborhood expert. They've been commissioned by your homeowners association and by your neighbors, by those who live on your streets, to be agents who can sell your home the best due to the large amounts of closings and the relationships they have with the other local agents who have a multitude of buyers for your home. In fact, they too will say they have a buyer for your home. Do they? What if you said when they pitch that, great, bring them over, let me meet them. I'll let you handle the deal. I'll pay you a flat fee, and you can represent both of us. How does that sound? After the agent picked up the phone, dropping it because of the shock of being called out on their bluff, you would see they probably don't have a buyer, or that buyer is not ready to go, making the contract valid at the time initiated. Some agents play these old games, others have moved their bait and switch within the online channels. Some syndication websites have what homes are worth with unclear algorithms running when I check values. Of course, all the value sets I checked are going to be balanced against the multiple listing service, the actual closings, and in there I can see how the recordings happened, what type of loans were used, how long it took, what the concessions amounts were. Those are those things that the sellers are going to be selling to keep the buyer interested in the transaction. Maybe the buyer finds something within escrow, something they discover with the house, and then have a contractor or another official go out, look at the problem that's been revealed, and then they go back to the seller and say, hey, would you mind taking care of this? And depending on the seller and their attitude and the buyer's attitude up to that point and what the problem is, sometimes it gets taken care of. I get to see those numbers. Some of the syndication websites, either they omit the data or don't see the data, whatever it is, it does skew the value somewhat. And in some cases, apparently, a lot. Now, of course, I check these systems out there because my sellers are checking their values as well. Of course, I use them because my sellers are. I need to be prepared for their version of the amplifying of the data to solicit some decision for a home seller or buyer. Decisions that equate to the home seller wanting to sell because they see an overinflated price, or a home buyer seeing a deal too good to pass up. All are shown due to a tweaking of the real estate syndication website's program when somebody wants to know their home's value. Well, not all of them are that way, but again, it's something to at least be wary of. Anytime you're getting information online by a non-verified source, you might want to look at the data set if you can get access to it to be able to make a better decision as to where your value should be. Oh, not to mention, once you enter your address, it's pretty much game over regarding your privacy. The online ads that viewing are going to be all about real estate now. They're going to be all over your social media. You might even get mailers, and my sellers have, when I had anonymously asked what their home is worth. The data then gets captured. Then all of a sudden it brings that particular address into the forefront. And then the real estate syndication company is going to be able to leverage that itty bitty bit of information, just a simple inquiry, and try to bring about an agent's converting that particular seller or buyer to being their client, and they pay handsomely for it, I assure you. Now, when you get these mailers anonymously asking what their home is worth, the data gets captured with a few cross checks on those data mining websites. They have your email, your address, and your phone number, and more information they gather than you could possibly imagine. Then, if you dare, click on one of those new ads and see, for the first time after your home is worth inquiry, you just drove that final nail into the coffin. I have to tell you, you have been identified, and agents paying for your information will be using interruption marketing to reach you out, maybe with a buyer ready to go, as we talked about. I have had more great experiences not being the local neighborhood expert, coming into an area and getting those sellers more for their homes because I'm working for them, not trying to build some reputation and my glory that is very much self-serving and ego-driven. I don't play golf, and I sure don't with others in my business. I know that connections help real estate transactions, and I've found that when I don't know anybody anything, my sellers and buyers get the best benefit. No favors, just the facts, ma'am, to quote Joe Friday. My favicon, it's simple and it says it all. When I write and publish a post, which is on most days of the week, I do it based on the questions my clients have had in the past. I give stories like this one and coming into an area where a single agent has been the go-to for many years, breaking form and ending up making a record sale higher than any past sales. And this may be to an agent who is also not that local neighborhood expert either, but he has clients or she has clients who have been trying to break in but could not due to, well, factors unknown. Life is funny, isn't it? I'll tell you this. There are many reasons why you should hire the best for the job. And those reasons should start that if you even like what your agent is saying online on their blog, if they're relying 100% on social media, I think that's an issue due to less accountability. It's easy to do 15 seconds. It's hard to read a complete blog post that I put together over time on my website at santaclaritaopenhouses.com, and then to extrapolate even more information from the text to help my buyers and sellers make their better, more educated real estate decisions. I write every article with my fingers. I type them myself. I may inquire about converting real estate stats that I generate within my real estate's multiple listing service statistical data system within ChatGPT, but this is definitely to a minimum. I don't want any skewed data or hallucinations coming around. And sometimes that happens with these large language models. As far as what a home is worth, I run that interference for you. I use my account so I get the data. But beyond that, you will be instructed to not click on any ads pertaining to your social media due to the search I ran, because they're going to probably appear on your end if those dots are connected. Your data is definitely in the advertising and marketing circle, and it will be researched, so be wary. I'm Connor with Honor. Let me know how I can serve you. We'll see you on the next one. Over and out.